Okay, so let's continue with the following variation. After bishop c4, a6. Previously we saw knight f6 and with e5 he attacks so quickly. So a6. Another pawn move, but he didn't have a normal piece development. So ugly, but sometimes important like this. Castle, knight f6. And queen e2. Yes, because now he controls the b5 square. So if you compare to the previous, now e5 is not sure it is so good because d takes e5, queen takes d8, knight takes d8, and we can't come with knight b5, which was very unpleasant for him. So this is his problem generally. Now, okay, I can take back this with knight takes e5, but still I have a pawn down, maybe bishop e6. And it's not clear what is our compensation for it. Okay, so that's why queen e2, natural queen e2, rook d1, and I try to break somehow with e5. Bishop g4. E6 will be the next chapter, so we will continue with that later. Let's see with bishop g4, because it also seems to be a bit dangerous. Usually the pins are dangerous because, for example, now knight d4 seems to be also a kind of option. And h3, yes, because if we would play rook d1 to prevent the knight d4, it's very funny because knight e5 is not working as knight takes e5, and it's checkmate here. So this would be losing. So I think rook d1 is also completely acceptable move. After e6, then we can continue with something bishop f4 and we have a normal position. But how about h3? Because this is a bit more forced, attack the bishop, and let's see what can black do against it. Bishop takes f3 is the main line, but let's see how about knight d4. Is knight d4 working? No, it's not working because bishop takes f7, this was the trap. King takes f7 and queen c4 check. And suddenly two pieces are hanging here, the bishop and the knight, and we will win back the piece without any problem. So for example, if the king goes here, then we play knight takes d4 and white is better. Or if he blocks with the knight, then we play h takes g4. Even knight g5 will be also a threat, so it also seems to be hopeless for black. Or bishop e6, but then I also have some options, knight g5 check or queen d4. Let's play queen d4, also threatening with knight b5, knight g5, and black even doesn't have a pawn up, because on f7 we win back. So yeah, white's position is just much more promising. Alright, so let's go back and let's see bishop h5. How about if he keeps the pin, keeps the tension also? g4. Yeah, at first sight this is a weird move because we weaken our king's position. However, we should avoid the bishop spin, and also from h5 he avoided this bishop takes f7 stuffs. So that is the point. But of course here we always have to be careful about the knight takes g4 if he sacrifices here. Let's see, is it working here right now? H takes g4, bishop takes g4, and of course not as the same motif. Bishop takes f7, king takes f7, knight g5 check, followed by queen takes g4, and white looks nicely placed. So this is not working at all. Bishop g6. How about a queen d7? Seems to be strange, but sometimes this can be very dangerous, because g takes h5, queen takes h3, he comes like this, but also this bishop takes f7 motif is working, and he can't take it back because knight g5, or win the queen, or even the king moves somewhere, for example d7, but then yeah, not clear what is black's threat, because queen g4 check. Okay, let's say we play, for example, yeah, e5, or let's say knight g5. This is the easiest, and he can't continue even with a normal check also, because generally queen g4 was also no problem, because king h1 or king h2, and if queen h3 check, then with knight h2 we can block completely. Okay, so queen d7 was also not working at all. Let's see how about bishop g6, the most natural normal continuation. However, there is no pin already. Bishop f4. Completely normal development. Usually the f4 is the most natural square of the bishop. This is the most common in the games also, because the bishop is supporting the e5. If the pawn is on e6 instead of d6, also the bishop on f4 is the ideal. But of course here we have to think about the e5. If he would play an e6, then rook a d1, and it's very unpleasant for him on the d file, the pin. For example, if he ignores completely, then I can break with e5, and it's very, very unpleasant and dangerous for him. Also, if maybe here, if queen c7 goes out of the d file X-ray motif, we have also several continuation here, maybe e5. So the point is that somehow we should rush and try to punish him. D takes e5, knight takes e5, and don't allow him to continue the development. Now he can't, because kind of knight takes g6, and the queen is hanging. Bishop d6 also extremely dangerous, because even I can take it also. Queen takes, knight takes g6 and winning. If knight takes e5, then I just protect it with bishop takes e5. So, okay, and if he takes, knight takes e5, then I take it with the bishop. Queen goes somewhere, for example c6, and now we also need a really strong continuation. How about, for example, knight b5? It seems to be really tempting. Not sure this is the best way. The point is that if takes, then take and pin the queen. But if he plays rook c8, then I don't really have so good continuation. Maybe b3. Because the problem is that after knight a7, knight a7, he can play queen takes c4, and then we lose the piece. So this is an option, but let's see, can we find a stronger here? Probably we can. Because, for example, bishop f6 is also seems to be strong. G takes f6, and then bishop d5. So his king is in the middle. Somehow we can feel that we will have something here. Okay. So, but knight b5 is also strong. Rook c8, b3, not easy for him. Maybe the bishop goes to c5, and the knight is jumping to d6. Bishop d6. Now take with the rook or bishop, both of them are strong. Let's take with the rook, and we have a great initiative here. He won't have enough time for the castling, because, for example, queen c5, and then we will already crush him on e6. Takes, rook takes, the king goes to f7, bishop d6 followed by rook e7 seems to be kind of hopeless for him. And also if the queen would go to e4, also not so good for him, because bishop takes f6, queen e2, bishop e2. Maybe this is still okay for him. This is still okay for him. Bishop f3. I will get back some material, and at least we are slightly better. But sorry, maybe rook b6. But yeah, probably not. This was the main aim. But okay, this is not forced to play knight b5, so it was a really tempting option. But as I mentioned before, kind of bishop takes f6 was also okay. So here we can just feel that this position is fine. Alright, let's go back. And this was the e6 variation. Let's see how about e5. Yeah, e5 is a logical move because he pushed the pawn for tempo, so our bishop has to leave. We will see if he has to or not. He covers the d6 square from this diagonal, and also, yeah, he can continue the development with bishop e7. On the other hand, this weakened the d5 square a bit compared to the e6. And now we also play an excellent continuation, maybe I can say brilliant, rook fd1 exclamation mark. So of course we don't escape with the bishop. Instead, we come with the rook to the open file, and let's see what is the point of this. Okay, e takes f4 will be the main line if he captures the bishop, but how about, for example, queen d7 instead? We can feel that on the d file, this is usually pretty dangerous. So here we can play knight takes e5, and suddenly white is winning because the pawn can't take it back because rook d7, or if the knight takes, bishop takes, and we win back a pawn, and also even his pawn structure became worse. How about if queen c8, if he would like to go out of the d file? And sometimes even knight takes g4 can be also a threat, and our bishop is hanging right now. No problem, because we goes back to e3. And bishop e7. Okay, knight takes g4 is, I think, not a serious move. Also because I take it, queen takes, and the king is completely safe. Maybe I go to h1. And that is the same story. If you give something check, I can block with the knight. And somehow 3 pawns are not enough for the piece right now. White should be better here. And also if he continues with bishop h5, also I can move with the knight, because I protect the queen twice. So knight and bishop also, so just take it back, and white is clearly better. Very good. So knight g4 is not a point. How about knight takes e4? Also we can feel that this move is a little bit greedy. Knight takes e4, bishop e4. He has 2 pawns up now, but didn't come with f8 bishop and didn't castle yet. So usually we can feel that it will be something in the air. Bishop takes f7 exclamation mark, king takes, and knight g5. And we can say that white is winning. We get back a pawn, we will take back his bishop. Black will have only 1 pawn up, but he can't castle already. So it's almost a losing position. Maybe king e8, knight takes e4. Let's see a few moves yet. For example, queen e6. And let's see how to go forward, f4. Yes, and we just take pressure on him. Okay, so knight takes e4 we can feel This was not really good. But how about, for example, h5? Then he would like to open the h-file and attack our king. This move seems to be a bit scary, so we really have to be careful here. g5. If g5, then knight takes e4 and knight d5 exclamation mark. Let's see why this is so good. Because now this knight takes e4, bishop e4, bishop takes f7 is not working because I don't have knight g5 from my own pawn. So knight d5 now, we are 2 pawns down, but threatening to jump here. h4. Also, queen h3 is nothing, because knight c7, I will win the rook. And let's see what can he do here. Maybe queen g4 check, king h1 also. And he can't open the h-file. That would be very dangerous if he can, but he can't. We already moved the pawns, so this pawn never can come to the g-file. Okay, so h4. What is the point of the h4? Bishop h5 and connect with queen h3. Maybe it can be dangerous a bit. So for example, if now we would play knight b6, queen takes h3, knight takes a8, then bishop h5, it's kind of problems. It's dangerous because he will take the f3 and then threatening with checkmate. So let's see, king g2, rook b8. With king g2 we simply protected the h3, and with rook b8 he just went out of the knight b6, so both moves are completely logical. Bishop d3 suddenly come back and take some pressure on the knight, and also even a little bit open up the c-file for the rook. Bishop f5, black also continues the pressure, and he wants to attack the h3 pawn. Rook ac1, exclamation mark, because we just sacrificed the h3 pawn. But let's see how about if he captures. Bishop takes h3, otherwise there is no point of the bishop f5, and he would like to connect his queen also for the attack. But still the white king position is kind of safe, because if queen g4, then we have rook g1. Black also plays a very tempting and looks strong continuation with this knight g3, because now the queen is hanging. So let's see what can white do. Of course we can't take it, because then he opens the h-file and we would get a beautiful checkmate here. Okay, not checkmate, but 3 pawns down, so almost the same. So of course we don't want to open up the h-file for his rook. Queen d1, we also ignore him. And it's not clear how he will continue, because it seems strong, but it is closed, he is in pin. Of course I don't need to rush to take his knight, but in a long term that can be also hanging. e4, bishop takes e4, and bishop f1, so black also plays very talented continuations. Because if queen takes e4 would come here, then king takes h3, and white is winning here, because we opened the e-file also more, so we will have several threats here. Not clear what can he do. Queen maybe f5 check, king goes back to h2, and yeah, and objectively white should be winning here. But okay, how about the bishop f1? Very smart move. He would like to play queen h3 checkmate. So of course we should do something for it. By the way, if he would play knight f1 check, I can take with the queen. Of course not with the rook, because then checkmate on g2. But with the queen is okay, because his queen is also hanging. So finally we also win a piece with this. Because yeah, okay, if not a piece, it's also kind of good, because check, king goes to d7, queen takes h3, king takes c7, but also I have attack against his king here. But okay, let's see, bishop f1, still this is the best chance for him, because I can't take it, as I will have several problems. So knight f4 exclamation mark, just come back with the knight and protect the h3 square. It's very, very nice how the knights and the bishops are also under each other, but controlling the squares very well. Knight e5. And okay, simplifying the position, knight takes e5, queen takes d1, rook takes d1, knight takes e4, finally he went the knight. From there, knight takes f7, full of intermediate moves, and finally rook d takes f1, and we can say that even black has a pawn up, but also white is slightly better, because black's pieces are not coordinated at all, and the activity is also less than for white. Alright, so this was the queen c8 if he went out of the d file, and let's see the most excited if e takes f4 and he captured the bishop. Let's see how to continue here. e5. Of course, this was the point. White has a bishop and the pawn down at the current moment. However, he is much more active, and the black king is in the middle. Of course, he can't take it because of this pin. It's very dangerous. And okay, bishop e7. He has to sacrifice back, because let's see if he would like to keep the material advantage. E takes d6. Check. Of course, discover check. King d7. Still he is a pawn piece up, but the king is in the middle. Knight e5 check. Knight e5, queen takes e5. Knight f6 and rook a c1. And white is also winning here. Sometimes we just play a cool-blooded move. I think these moves are really good because it doesn't have an immediate threat, but extremely dangerous from here. On the c file, the rook will be very, very useful, and we are full of several threats. For example, check on b5 sometimes. So not easy for him at all, this position. Okay, let's go back and let's see how about the bishop e7. That's why. E takes f6, g takes f6. We get back the piece, but still two pawns down. However, pawn structure is bad, his king is in the middle, and his pieces are also passive. And we are extremely active, and we should also continue the activity with knight d5. Moreover, there is a pin on the e file, so the f6 pawn is hanging at the current moment. f5, that's why he pushed it, and g5, we close it, and threatening with knight f6. So his situation is not easy here at all. King f8 just wants to avoid the pin and attack the pawn with this move. And sometimes we just play a great cool-blooded continuation with h4. Just protect the pawn and continue the pressure. Bishop h5, knight takes f4, bishop takes f3, queen takes f3, knight e5, and queen d5, Queen also found a nice central square, and now if he would capture the bishop, knight c4, queen c4, and something like rook g8, then we can come with rook ac1. And white is just good. White is so good, objectively, this is almost already a winning position. Okay, alright. So, bishop takes g5, still the best counterplay. H takes, queen takes, knight g2. Now we have a piece up, but for 3 pawns, and black has a little initiative for it, so it's not completely like in the previous positions when the very clear piece up. It is a little bit more than that for black. f4, threatening with f3, and bishop e2. We can't take this pawn, it would be too greedy because the queen doesn't control this diagonal, so he plays king g7 and we can't avoid f3. And knight f3 can be also a threat sometimes, so not so easy. Let's play bishop e2, the solid move, prevent that, and we are safe. Rook g8, rook ac1, rook g6, and rook c3. Just go forward with the rook, and controlling the third rank a bit more. And even we have chance to double also on the c file and later do kind of penetration. Objectively, white should be minimum slightly better here, so his chances are just better. Okay, and let's see finally the main line after h3 if he doesn't keep the tension with bishop h5, if he plays the more forced continuation with bishop takes f3, queen takes, knight e5, queen e2, knight takes c4, queen takes c4, and e6. Rook d1, just come with the rook, rook c8, queen b3, queen c7. Until this it's a completely normal play. Bishop g5, bishop e7, and after rook ac1 we can also say that okay, we have a little bit less material than previously, but we also have compensation for the pawn. For example, let's say queen goes to b8 and queen a4 check. So I force him to play so strange moves. b5 is not working because queen a6. If knight d7, then I take the bishop and he can't castle. If he plays rook c6, then he will be again in an unpleasant pin. So I think this is playable completely.